Hello there, my crafty friends. It's Candy here from sweetstamper.com, and I'm so happy to be live with you today. I'm still getting my laptop switched on so I can see comments as we start stamping, but I hope that you're having a good week. Yesterday was a holiday here in the U.S., so most of the U.S. was taking a little bit of a break from everyday living and doing something, I don't know, something a bit relaxing. You know, during COVID, it's a little bit different. Whatever you're going to do for pleasure, for leisure, for entertainment. Hey, Cindy, I'm glad you're here. So hopefully you got to do something yesterday for Labor Day. I know I'm a business owner. I own my own business. I always work on Labor Day. That's part of Labor Day, you know. Hi, Kathy. I'm glad you're here. And yay, Mary. I think Mary is maybe here. So I'm hoping. Mary sometimes has a little bit of, sometimes until people become regulars on here, I have a little bit of trouble trying to find the live video, because sometimes you're actually on the site and it goes live and you still don't see it. And I know I have that problem with my church site as well sometimes. So I totally get it. And then, hey Shannon, I'm glad you're here. And then just to add to the confusion, of course, Facebook is doing some kind of Facebook, not an update, but like they're changing the whole look. And if you want to, you can go back to Facebook Classic. Well, I can't find anything on the new one. So they say, you know, are you switching back to Classic because you can't find things? I'm going, yes, that's exactly why I'm switching to Classic. But then they tell you that Facebook Classic is going away after 48 hours. So I don't know. Hey, Marlene, I'm glad you're here. I just keep clicking, I want to go on Classic. And so I don't know if you guys are finding the same thing, but it's the new Facebook thing is really hard to find stuff on, I find. So yay. Well, we've got a few folks here, so this is good. I'm so glad to be able to connect with you guys this way. Hey, Diana, I'm glad you're here. I think that the Facebook community, or just maybe not even the Facebook community, the community we build within like my Sweet Stamper page, I've always appreciated that and the ability to connect with y'all across the miles. I think the connection now is probably more appreciated than ever before. Hey, Yolanda, I'm glad you're here too. So, but I think that the more I've connected here on Facebook Live, hey Mary, welcome, welcome. I think the more I've connected here on Facebook Live, the more I've recognized the actual community that's here, that we as crafters can connect with one another. And hey Jackie, I'm glad you're here. You know, sometimes we have crafters pop in here that aren't even paper crafters. Maybe they are stitchers, maybe they are knitters, but they are drawn to handmade. Velma, you're going to have to leave early to pick up your hubby from his treatment. That's totally fine. I appreciate you coming and stopping by with us for a few minutes at any rate. So I actually have we're going to kind of, well, maybe not deviate is not the word, maybe go into something a little bit different today, because we're going to do some watercoloring. And I had mentioned to you last week, I think on Thursday, that we were going to be watercoloring today. And I had some different ideas in my head, and then I had to figure out which way we're going to actually go. So I have that figured out, and I'm going to go ahead and bring the camera down and get ready to do some stamping. Hey, Gail, I'm glad you're here with us. So let me flip camera and see how we get on. Here we go. See my messy desk now. I've always got a messy desk. Doesn't matter how hard I'm trying to keep things tidy, it's always going to be messy. It's just the way my brain works. Okay, so, well, not bad. Okay, we've got a pretty good surface. I was hoping that we would have a pretty good, pretty wide view, even though I'm on my phone today, because I'm going to be die cutting a little bit with the Big Boss, and it's easier to see that if we have a little bit of a wide view and not quite so close up where all you can see is the handle. So thank you so much, Gail, for voting for me today. Yes, first up on the schedule today is this card, which I created as part of a card contest. And this, I shared the link yesterday and again today in my email. So if you're not getting my emails, make sure you sign up for that. But you can also just go to the link below and you can just vote for my card, and I really appreciate that. So this was super fun to make, and I'm actually going to use this same stamp set today, and we're going to be doing a watercolor card. This was actually all done with Stampin' Blends, and only a few colors of blends. You know, I kind of like to keep my colors down to a minimum when I'm creating for the most part. Hey, Marlene, I'm glad you're here. Partly because if I get too many colors going, I think it confuses my brain. And I also will inadvertently put the stamp in the wrong ink pad. So I don't know if anybody else is like that, but that's why when I'm actually working on a card, I try to limit my colors with the amount of colors. So anyway, I'm going to be using this stamp set today. Before I show you today's project, or we're going to create it together, I've not actually made today's project except in my head. So we're going to work on this together. Just a reminder, I was actually just finishing up my tutorials. This is my Halloween class, so I've got 3 super cute cards for you. This one uses the rainbow glimmer paper, and these 2 use the lovely mesh metallic ribbon. And so this class gives you 3 cards, and I think we're going to be sending more Halloween cards this year than maybe we have in a while. You get everything you need to make one of these treat holders, and they actually... I'm going to give you this little clear box as well. This will hold our 3x3 cards and envelopes as well as treats. So that has a lot of versatility. And then I'm going to cut one of these for you. This is actually one of our new dies. And so you'll get to try this out and decide if that's something that you like putting together. I can tell you it is so super easy. I think you're going to fall in love with it. And then the third treat holder that you're going to have is this little mini curvy keepsake. Now, some of you may have this as it was introduced last year, but some of you may have kind of sat on the fence about it or thought maybe you didn't need it. So anyway, everything is cut and prepared for you in this class. You get your PDF tutorials. Like I said, I was polishing that, putting the finishing touches on it, polishing it a little bit this morning. And the deadline for taking this class is the 12th, which is Saturday. You do get a full pack of rhinestones. You get a full pack of this super fun ribbon. And then you get a 1/4 of a package of the DSP. So the Halloween Hoots class, Have a Hoot Halloween class, I think is a fun one. And I think that you should consider it so that you can spread some Halloween cheer this year. Okay, now we're going to do a little watercoloring, and I'm going to show you a couple of things before we move forward. So let's talk about some of the basics of watercoloring. And some of this, if you guys watched a previous watercoloring tutorial I did, I talked about some of this, but there's always new people on here, and sometimes it's good to review. The watercolor paper, this is the watercolor paper that Stampin' Up! Carried for many, many years. This is the new one, the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. They're similar in the fact that they're both artist quality watercolor paper. They're cotton, 100% cotton. The differences are that this one is a little bit bumpier. This new one is smoother. I think it actually holds the ink a little bit better. This one is also a little bit more of an eggshell color. This is a little bit whiter. But I will tell you that I went to grab for this today and I'm totally out. It was actually on the back order list a couple of weeks ago, and so I had not replenished my stock. So I'm going to be using my retired watercolor paper, and if you have some of this, this is what you'll be using, and then when you run out of this, you would be replacing it with the Fluid 100. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually, instead of watercoloring like flowers or birds or something like that, what I'm actually going to do is make a watercolor background. And I'm going to be making a sympathy card today. And one of the things I think when you're doing a sympathy card, and I'm reaching for this, I had featured this in a previous probably 2 Facebook Lives. This is one of our host stamp sets. It's only $12. I mean, that's an amazing price for a red rubber cling stamp. Now, that's $12. You can only get that when you're placing a $150 order. Now, that $150 in orders can be just yours, or it can be a combination of people. So just an FYI on that. This is what we call our host stamp sets. And they are specially priced so that when you're using your host free rewards, you get a lot of bang for your buck. So I think this is just a beautiful stamp set for Sympathy. I'm going to be using this along with the Grace's Garden. And what I was going to say about Sympathy cards is I have certain parameters I fall into with Sympathy cards. And one of them is I like to keep them fairly simple. But I think that Sympathy cards really, really lend themselves to artsy, technique-y things, because I don't want to put a whole lot of embellishment and bling and stuff on here. So in order to bring some interest, I like to use some different techniques. I'm also going to be using the new water painters from Stampin' Up. We've had our aqua painters for many years. If you still have aqua painters, you can definitely still use them. They'll last for a long, long time. But I think that if you like to watercolor, you might want to consider upgrading and getting a set of these. And I'll tell you why. First of all, there's 3 brushes rather than 2. And there's very good reason for that. Now, don't pay attention. I've already misplaced one of my lids. A couple of things. And first of all, when you put water in these as your aqua painters, I highly recommend that you use distilled water. Or filtered water, because I know here in San Antonio we have a lot of lime scale in our water, and it will clog. You will get little bits of lime scale that will clog in this barrel. So I highly recommend that you use distilled water or filtered water. Now, one of the things with these new and they really are improved aqua painters is that you have finer tips. So these have not only finer tips, but they're also a little bit longer. So your brush is a little bit longer. It's also a little bit finer on both of them. And the third brush, I think, is the star of the show, and that's what I'm going to be using today. This third brush, look at how wide that is. We have a wide, flat brush, which we've never had before. All of our others are rounded, and this is perfect for backgrounds, for doing watercolor washes, for doing wide swaths of color. This is absolutely ideal. And so this is, I think, a terrific addition. I do want to let you know, because this took me like 45 minutes to figure out, that when you go to open these, you go clockwise. I wanted to go counterclockwise to open them because that's typically what you do. These are the opposite. So I sat there for 30 minutes trying to get this thing open, got my pliers out, got my husband involved. Yeah, we kept pulling and pulling, could not get the thing open. Voila, I went to do it in clockwise fashion and it opened like a champ. So what I'm going to do to make this watercolor wash background is I'm going to, first of all, wet my background. And the reason I'm going to do that is I don't want my ink, even though I'm going to be adding some water to it, I don't want it to absorb really quickly into my watercolor paper. I want it to kind of sit on the top and really, really blend. I'm using 3 colors. Remember, this is a Sympathy card, and so I'm wanting to create kind of an ethereal, heavenly type background. And when I do this type of a card, I like to kind of signify going from earth and up towards heaven. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit of water first. So it does tell you here to push. And I think that if you've never used a watercolor brush set before, that's really a nice feature. Now, I can tell looking in I got to pull it up to the sun a little bit so I can see that I do have water over my whole piece. And that's just going to kind of soften things up a little bit and make it really easy to start working. Now, what I like to do is create a palette, and I'm going to do that by pressing my ink pads on a large block. And I've chosen a large block because I'm going to be using quite a bit of ink, and I'm going to start with Misty Moonlight. It's going to be my darkest color. And I'm going to also go with Balmy Blue as my pale blue. And then I'm going to bring in some Highland Heather, a little bit of purple. You know, purple is symbolically is royalty or heaven, and so that's why I'm bringing in a little bit of Highland Heather. So let's see where we go. I'm going to start with the darkest color first, and this is going to be in portrait mode. And so I'm going to squeeze the water onto my block, and you see how that's giving me just a nice pool of this Misty Moonlight. Misty Moonlight is one of our new in colors. I think it's absolutely lovely. To me, it reminds me of blue jeans. So it's kind of a blue jean color, and I'm just doing, you can see, just a watercolor wash across here. And this is going to be my earth, kind of. And then I'm going to move up a little bit in the sky, and I'm going to give it a little bit of this Balmy Blue. Balmy Blue is actually the most popular color that Stampin' Up! Has year after year. I know that it's been for a couple of years now. So this I'm going to also bring down here into my Balmy Blue. Just you see how that's blending those colors so nicely. It already looks like a sky, doesn't it? And now I'm going to bring in a little bit of the magic here. We're going to bring a little bit of this Highland Heather. And of course, purple has blue in it. Now I could leave it really pale like that, but I think I'm going to actually add a little bit more color to it. I want to have a little bit more of this Highland Heather. Now you can see that because I'm going back over the blue area, you see how it helps blend it so I don't have any solid lines. It's all just a beautiful, beautiful soft wash of color. I think I will just come back in here and do a little tiny bit more of this Highland Heather. Give a little bit more purple, maybe just up at the top. Let's see. And you know, if you get too much, the nice thing is you can just blend it out. Just add more water and it will blend it out really nicely. So I think I really don't need to do anything else there. What I am going to do is, I always keep paper towels handy when I'm watercoloring. You see how nice and easy that is to clean up? I mean, just super easy. And I don't have to have any special materials. It's just a clear block, something that I already have in my stamp space. Now, you'll see that I do like to clear the brush when I'm finished. Over time, you'll find that the bristles will stain if you're using darker colors, but as long as you have cleared it and you're getting a clear brush mark when you're using it, then you don't have to be concerned about it transferring. Now you do want to just kind of bring those tips all in together to keep them stored nicely and neatly. So I do like these water painters. Okay, now let's see. We're going to let this dry a little bit. If I need to speed it up, I do have my heat tool handy, so I can do that if I need to. But I think that what I'm going to do while I'm waiting for that to dry is, let me get some paper here. Okay. This is my waterproof one. I've actually laminated this piece here, and that comes in handy. I'm going to grab a couple of the flowers from Grace's garden, and I'll show you how I'm going to create a gate going from earth up towards heaven. And I'm going to bring in a couple of these flowers. And I think, like I said, I haven't actually made this card other than in my head. I think that I'm going to try something, and we'll see how we get on with it. I'd like to try, just to keep it so soft, I'm going to try doing my flowers without my tuxedo black ink. I'm going to try to do them with the Misty Moonlight and see if I can do it and not have it transfer my blends once I start using them. And you know, the only way you can find that out, although technically you're only supposed to use the what do you call them? The memento ink. I find that a lot of times, you know, if you just try something, lo and behold, it will work. So let's see if I can bring in some purple to my flowers and not have it smudge. So let's see. Look at there. You see how much, let me bring you in a little bit closer now that, and then I'll have to bring you back out when I do the Big Boss. You see how that is, there we go. You see how much softer that is than if I were to do it in black. And really, I mean, there might be a tiny bit of smudging on here, but it kind of, I think, will just add to the overall ethereal effect that I'm going for. Now, although I've got Highland Heather, Balmy Blue, and Misty Moonlight, I'm going to bring in just a tiny bit of green because I do need just these green leaves here to give it an authentic look of earth. So those are going to be my flowers. I'm really liking the way that came out with the Misty Moonlight. Susie, thank you so much. I'm glad you liked my contest card. And that's kind of the inspiration that I'm using today to go with. And I appreciate your vote so much, Susan. I'm glad you voted for my card. That's going to help me. Now, where did my other stamp go? Oh, right in the box. Okay, so once again, I'm going to ink this guy up. Another little set of flowers. And these are also going to be cut out with my dies. So the Grace's Garden stamp set has several of these flower clusters, I should say. And they have dies for each one of them that cut them out, as well as the gate, as well as the fence. So really some nice things there. Okay, I think on this one, just to kind of change it up a little bit, I think we'll go with these light, this is the light Highland Heather. No, this is the dark Highland Heather. This may be a little darker than what I was anticipating going for, but I think it's going to look good. And just because I'm here in Texas, I am going to do these sprays of flowers up here, these little spires, I should say. I'm going to do these in Balmy Blue and kind of make them into blue bonnets. And that is going to give just a really nice soft look to these. What's nice about these kind of, images, they could be any number of different flowers. So you can kind of make them any color that you want, and it'll still just kind of work. Now I'm going to bring in some leaves, and this is the light Old Olive. Super easy with the Stampin' Blends. So this card, I'm combining a watercolor wash background on a traditional piece of watercolor paper, and then I'm bringing in some Stampin' Blends as well. So you can combine your different watercolor features, your different watercolor techniques, as it were. I'm going to give these flowers a little bit of a dark blue center. So now I've got those done. My paper is still pretty wet, so I'm letting that continue to dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and run these through my Big Boss. So let me just tidy things up a minute while I'm doing that so that I don't get away from myself and then have an absolute mess when I'm done, which is my typical mode of operation. But I want you to know that I ran early yesterday and I was early last week. I was early on my card contest yesterday on uploading it or sharing the link, and I had people going, we can't get in there, there's nothing there. So, and I was early for my Facebook Live last week, so you can see how I'm trying to change my ways a little bit. Now, while I have this white cardstock out, I think I'm going to put a little white butterfly on this. I'd love to put butterflies on Sympathy cards. I think that's going to work. We shall see. whether that's going to work with the rest of my overall design. Like I said, this design has only been in my head up to this point, so I'm hoping that it will come out the way either the way I'm intending or in a way that I will be happy with. So that's my two what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think of the word. Either one of those would work. So let's run these through Big Boss. I will tell you that I'm absolutely loving the fact that Big Boss is so very portable and handy. So I do need to bring this up a little bit more for you so that you're not just right on the, see, I think it's good, and then the weight of the phone. Now it's going to tell me that I need to move my phone. I should probably just leave well enough alone. Okay. I'm probably making you seasick in the process. Okay, let's see. Over here. Okay, here we go. Let's run this through Big Boss. And I'm going to use the platforms that come with Big Boss, which is really the only thing you need. I will tell you, because I had some people asking me, if you have another die cutting machine, you know, we had the Big Shot for many years. If you have a a magnetic platform for it, it will fit. So your magnetic platform will fit on here. We do have a new one. I don't have it yet. It only just became available, and my understanding is it has like a self-healing mat. I'm expecting, I am going to get it. I'm expecting that it will be like the other elements of the Big Boss, and that is everything on here has so far that I've experienced has been new and improved. So I'm expecting that that will be the same. So, and this is times like this is when using small dies like this is when a magnetic platform can sometimes help to keep these from shifting once you pull it through. One of the things I've been told, I have not experienced it myself yet, but on our the magnetic platform we had previously, sometimes when you would put your dies on here like this, the die would jump. And it's because there were lots and lots, I think there were like 70 little mini magnets inside the plate. On the new one, it's my understanding it's all one big magnet, so they don't shift, like jump around like they used to. So let's go ahead and run this through. Voila, it's so quiet. It's so incredibly quiet. There's my two little flower clusters that are ready to go now. Didn't have to fussy cut anything. Okay, so here and here are my two little pieces. And the nice thing is, when I'm done with this, even when I'm going to use it in a little while, I can just put my platforms over there on my tabletop and then pop this up, boom, boom, and then just move it over. And that is out of the way, which is really nice. Okay, so here are my two flower clusters. Let's see how things are moving. I'm going to go ahead and use my Balmy Blue as solid background, my card base, and I'm going to put a piece of the coordinating Misty Moonlight on here, so you can already kind of see how things are starting to shape up. Now, here's my watercolored piece is here, so you can see how my colors, and yeah, jumping dies with the Big Shot platform, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about, Susie. Hey, Susan, I'm glad that you are here, and Sue has joined us, so it's good to see some more folks here. So you can kind of see how my colors are coming together here. And I think this is dry enough that I can go ahead and start doing a little bit more with it. So let me show you what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'll show you the next thing first. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of gate on here to, again, kind of signify moving from one realm into the next. Hey, Kathy, I'm glad you're here. So what I'm going to do is, and I did try this out a little bit, and I wanted the gate to be really soft. And I thought gray would work, but it really didn't. So what I'm finding is the best thing is to get this is really more the fence than the gate. There's a gate piece as well. No, this is actually a gate. There's like a, what do you call it? Like an arbor piece as well. So here I'm going to go ahead and put my gate right about so. Oh, nope, I wanted to stamp it off first. Glad I caught myself because it would have been way too dark. I want this to be really soft because, again, I'm going for kind of an ethereal look. Kathy, I'm glad you like my background. This is my kind of technique today, my watercolor wash. Now, you see how pale that is? That's the look I'm going for because I'm wanting this to, yay, that came out exactly the way I wanted it. I don't need the black anymore. I'm really glad that I did my flowers in the blue because you see how much paler that is than if I were to have done those in black. But they're still kind of nice and they have a nice bright look to them. So I can go here or I can go here. So let's put this together and then we'll see how we're going to make some arrangements and how we're going to put our sympathy greeting on here. Again, this is Balmy Blue, which is the most popular color in Stampin' Up! It's the most sold color that we have. And I think I will move this onto white. Sometimes when you're trying to see colors and you have all that color behind you, it is a little bit difficult. So let's get my seal going. And this is just a layer, our regular layer of Misty Moonlight. That's going directly on my Balmy Blue. And this is just our standard 5 1/4 by 4 layer. Let's see. Hey, Crystal, I'm glad you're here. We're doing some watercolor wash background today for a sympathy card. So now I am going to go ahead and put this down, and I'm going to put a lot of adhesive on this because this watercolor paper is thick, and I want to make sure it really sticks down and doesn't curl up in any way. So lots of adhesive. I will say the Stampin' Seal is much heavier adhesive than our snail that we used to have as far as a tape runner. Now, there are my 3 matted layers. And I'm going to just turn that over and really burnish it. If you don't want to get your fingers on it, you can, always use your bone folder. And that just really makes sure that that adhesive is stuck in really, really well there. Now, before I put my flowers on, I want to talk about how I'm going to do my greeting. Now, I can just stamp it directly on there, but I was playing around with the possibility of something like this, just a white oval with my greeting. I also had stamped on a piece of vellum, which I think I like a lot better. So I'm open to suggestions. I could also stamp it directly on the card. So tell me what you are thinking. And I am going to, I think this is going to have to go here because it's too big to put over here. It's going to hang off. So I am going to pop this up on with some mini dimensionals. And I think that white background is going to be maybe too much on the tag. Although, the white is a nice color for sympathy cards. So I'm waiting for my virtual design partners here to weigh in and tell me what you're thinking about the greeting. I know I have several people on here who are happy to express their creative opinions. So here we go. And I think I'm going to actually bring this down a little bit, like so. And then this smaller clump I'm going to put right up here. Mary, everybody's saying the vellum. Okay, the vellum it is. Now my trick with the vellum is going to be attaching it in such a way that the adhesive does not show. So let's see what I can come up with. I'm going to do a little bit of experimentation. There we go. And now I'm going to go here. And then I could add this little white butterfly. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit too much. Although I'm anxious to hear what others would say. Is the white butterfly too much? Or is it about right? Now, what I'm going to do is, I know that when we had fast fuse, you could use fast fuse on vellum and it wouldn't show through. So I'm going to put a tiny bit on this blank piece of vellum and just see if it shows through. Look at there. Possibly because I'm on watercolor background, I'm going to give it a try and see if I use just the tiniest bit of my snail, not snail, I keep calling it snail, but it's seal. If I use just a wee tiny, the tiniest little bit, now I got to get it to, it doesn't want to grab on the vellum, there he is. Tiny, tiny bits, then I can put it there. And now, things are, you like the butterfly on. Okay, let's see, where'd my butterfly go? Where'd she go? Where did my butterfly go? I gotta find her. You know, I could also make the butterfly out of one of the blues. I don't have any of the light blue cardstock. Oh, I do. Let's see. Let's try a couple of things with the butterfly. We could try a darker blue butterfly, like so. To really, I think I'm liking that better already. So I could go with the blue, or I could go with the white. And I will say that I typically do not like any kind of bling on a sympathy card. I feel like it just doesn't really fit. However, put it in the left-hand corner. Look at there. What are we thinking? Or I could bring the left-hand corner down here. What are we thinking? We like the blue butterfly. Do we like it down lower or do we like it up higher? And then the other, last but not least, little element, as I said, I typically do not like to use anything blingy, but I will tell you, these are the blue gems in the holiday catalog. And in keeping with my ethereal look, you know, although they're a bit blingy, they kind of just go with this, I think. They're soft enough, and they're kind of more, they're more like, instead of just being like pure shine, they're more like iridescent. So what do we think? Do we want it there? Do we want it here? Do we want it here? Or do we want the butterfly? Left corner, up in the top. It is, ladies and gentlemen. And I think what I'm going to do, just to kind of give it a because this is on, yeah, it's actually stuck really well. I'm impressed. I'm going to use a mini glue dot, not mini glue dot, a mini Stampin' Dimensional, and pop that up like so. And there we have it. So a sympathy card to signify the image I'm wanting to bring is moving from the earthly realm towards the heavenly realm. And butterflies, of course, are a symbol of new beginnings. And then the gate. I love the image of a gate. Of course, the Bible talks about the narrow gate. And so the gate with the flowers. And flowers, of course, here on earth, but also maybe there'll be flowers in heaven. They're so pretty. I can't imagine that there'll be so much beauty in heaven. I don't know. And I think this is popping up just a little bit. I'm going to add just, yeah, I didn't want that kind of flapping. So there we have it. A watercolor wash background made with the new Stampin' Water Painters. And these do come in a set of 3. I used the whitest one, which we've never had before, and used a combination of a watercolor wash background on traditional watercolor paper, and then did my Stampin' blends for the flowers. And again, just trying it out. I don't know if it would work on a larger image, but I actually stamped these in Misty Moonlight as opposed to the black. I did use the black for the fence, but I stamped it off first. So that is my Sympathy card using some watercolor technique. And I think you can see by what I did here, kind of what I was saying, that I think that artsy techniques are a really good fit for Sympathy cards because the artsy side of things doesn't have to be like all blingy and we're trying to, you know, show everything that we can do, but really just to bring that look of heaven, I think really goes. You could even just do like watercolor flowers, I think is a really pretty way to do a Sympathy card. But that was it. And just to remind you, for those of you who came later, this was kind of what started me in this direction. And this is a card that I had made and shared yesterday on a card contest that I'm in. And the card contest parameters were anything goes, but it had to be a thank you card. So that was kind of why I went with this. Although Grace's Garden has a beautiful, has a really beautiful thank you greeting. Let me see if I can find the stamp set. There it is. It has, with all my heart, I thank you for all the kindness in yours. It would have been too big. And so that's why I went with just a little thanks here. As far as a message for inside, there are actually some really pretty messages. I don't have the stamps with me right here, but I will share that on... I will share that with you here. So when I sign off today, what I always do is I go in and put a title up at the top, like this is a Sympathy card with Grace's Garden, watercolor wash background, something like that. And so I will label it so that if you ever want to go back and look at the video, there's a title and you know what you're looking for. Or if you've never been to see, if you haven't seen my Facebook Lives, you can go into the video section here and you can see what they're, you know, I try to just put the title of what they are. So when I do that, I will add in the comments a stamp set that would make a good inside greeting for the Sympathy card. There's actually a really beautiful one, but I can't think of the name of the stamp set off the top of my head. Also, just a reminder that when you share my videos, you go into a drawing for a free stamp set, and I haven't yet shared it. This is the stamp set that I'm giving away for August shares, and I think I'm going to take a few minutes. I'm going to make a cup of tea for my guys, and I think I will go ahead and draw for this. So again, when you share my videos, any of my videos for September, they will go into the drawing for a free stamp set. Okay, actually, look at there. This is Gorgeous Posies. This is actually a great stamp set on its own, but it coordinates with a kit that we have. Look at that right there, Mary. Wishing you comfort and peace at this time. That's a beautiful inside greeting right there. I don't want to use this one because it's brand new and that's going to go in the mail to somebody, but I have that stamp set. So I may just put that one right inside this card. So that is it for today. Let me just sign off with you here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and it's been fun. Tuesday is the day that I like to kind of do a little bit more teaching, a technique, or maybe learning how to use a set of dies or learning how to use a product. And so Tuesdays is where we dig in and do some kind of more intensive stamping. And then Thursday, we do a simple card and then we step it up. So that way we kind of cover a lot of bases. But I thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you supporting me in so many different ways, whether you share my video, whether you place orders with me, whether you purchase my classes, whether you're just here to cheer me on. It all makes a difference in my small business, and I so appreciate that. You know, I'm so blessed to be a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who does this as a business. Many, in fact, the vast majority of people who purchase a starter kit and become a part of Stampin' Up! Are just enjoying their discount. And as much as I love my discount, I also love being able to earn an income doing what I love. So thank you all very much for your support. So I will see you here Thursday at 2 o'clock for Simple and Stepped Up Stamping. Thanks again. Take care and God bless.